Yeah. Good evening, everybody. I welcome you all to today's webinar on a critical topic, Brahmaputra strategic water security for the country and development of Northeast. But before we start, uh, there is some echo. Before we start today's proceeding, I would like to highlight that the question answers will be taken in the end of the webinar. It is requested to mute your mic and only unmute when your turn comes for this speaking. And the entire proceedings will be recorded to prepare a YouTube, which will be posted on our website as well as in the YouTube channel what we have. At the outset, I welcome Shri Ashwin Pandya Sahab, the keynote speaker, Mr. Subimal Bhattacharjee, who is basically from Assam and will share his experiences there relevant to Brahmaputra. And also welcome, because people are joining just now. So in general, everybody who has joined this webinar, namely Surukumar Singh sir, R.N. Mishra sir, Nana Sahib Patil sir, and of course Behrman and Mr. Siddharth Chaturvedi and others who have joined this webinar. Ladies and gentlemen, before I start the proceeding, I'd just like to brief about the Security and Policy Initiative, the think tank, which was set up in October 2021. It had its first webinar. And it was then, and today also it is mentored by, had been mentored by four prominent people. Late Shri Shekhar Dutt, the ex-Defense Secretary and the ex-Governor of Chhattisgarh. Dr. Sivithanu Pillai, who is better known as father of BrahMos missile, the founder CEO of the BrahMos Corporation. Dr. Arvind Gupta, who is currently director of Vivekanand International Foundation. He has been Deputy NSA. And Professor Bimal Roy, ex-director of the Indian Statistical Institute and current, and he had also been chairman of the National Statistical Commission. He is a prominent encryption expert. SAPI, when the idea of SAPI was being conceived, we had discussed at length with the late president, Mr. Pranab Mukherjee, who blessed this idea. And unfortunately, he was not there when the SAPI took to air in 2021. Almost a year ago, he had expired due to COVID. SAPI is working in the domains of the defense transfer of technology and public policy, and also improvement of border management. Our activities are including the publishing articles, which are there on the website. We have we have got various blogs also. Some YouTube channel is there, and we take up various topics like cyber security, 5G, drones, problem and solution, and other aspects too. We have been given legal status and will be there in the physical space too very soon, and take up the activities of research, training, generating ideas for policy formulation, etc. Now, coming to the today's topic, without losing much time, we have chosen this topic because sometime in mid of 2025, the China laid the foundation stone of the dam on the Yarlung Tsangpo, which is the Brahmaputra known in China. And that raised eyebrows here, and we had to immediately take steps to counter it. But then on the ground, though Pandya Sahab is the authority on this, he had been to other side also, and he will tell us all about. But then there had been some opposition in the on the ground in Arunachal Pradesh, where the counter dams are to be made. Counter dam is another strategy, and that is the major strategy of countering a dam being constructed upstream. So this is which prompted us to take up the topic. Not only this, because construction of the dam in the China will dry out waters mainly during winter time in Brahmaputra, and it will impact the border management. So I was encouraged to take up this topic very effectively. That's in this in the last webinar we discussed about the Indus Water Treaty. Of course, Pandya sir will tell us about the strategies to mitigate this. particular dam what is being constructed in China. And any dam construction or such major project take a lot of time. So we have to start immediately the activity. That is why we are taking up this webinar to inform people, develop perspective, build opinion, which is very important, because nobody knows about this particular aspect in public domain. Leave aside for discussions in the public about this very important topic. Because if we don't start right now, when China comes up, we'll be nowhere, and we'll have faced a lot of problem in Northeast. That is one major point which encouraged us to take up this topic. And in this particular webinar, and also in YouTube, we like to elicit ideas and the suggestions from the distinguished audience here. And also when the YouTube is there is a market payload that to give suggestions. We'll and request people to give their input, so we can put it before the concerned authorities and the people who will be basically concerned with they are the stakeholders in the dam construction when it happens. Before the keynote speaker comes, I'll request Subimal Bhattacharjee, who is from Assam, and he's a renowned cybersecurity expert. Every week or two, we read his articles on artificial intelligence, cybersecurity, and he's well entrenched in this domain in the country, and also doing a lot for the Northeast. He's quite visible in Assam and other areas of Northeast as a prominent figure in policy making. So he had been born and brought up in Assam Valley, and he will share his experiences and he tell us the importance of Brahmaputra. So over to you, Subimal, and after that, we'll request the keynote speaker to tell us. Yeah, you can. Subimal is in red t-shirt. He will tell us.
Thank you. Thank you, Guptaji. It's quite cold here, so I wore a woolen sweater, which generally I'm a coat suit man, but it's quite cold. I just came from the farm, but welcome to all of you here. I was not very confident that I should be talking here. When we have a stalwart expert like Mr. Ashwin Pandya, who has done so much for the sector, for the country, to be coming and doing any kind of comments here. But you qualified me being from Assam. That's more important rather than my cybersecurity or the columns that I write, because the overall geopolitics situation globally, and if you bring in context in our region, particularly the northeastern region, it's really in a state of flux. Till the other day, we knew that Bangladesh was in kind of a stable situation. Now Bangladesh has become very, very unstable, and many activities are happening, which is actually provoking. And the provocation directly comes to the Northeast in a very significant way. The Northeast itself is very, very fragile, because a lot of tribes and non-tribes have a lot of issues around their own identities, and on and off they suddenly come up. Just earlier in the week in Kokrajhar, Adivasis versus Bodos became again a big issue where army also had to be brought in. But the larger issue in Northeast is what China is trying to do, and that is where the Brahmaputra, which is not merely a geographical feature, but actually the very heartbeat of Assam, becomes very, very important to reckon with and to understand where everything is going. The Brahmaputra is central to Assam's existence and prosperity. It is a agricultural backbone. Basically the river and its tributaries irrigate approximately 3.8 million hectares of agricultural land in the valley. Then this is the transportation artery, where the Brahmaputra is served as a natural highway. In fact, the national waterway to designation has enhanced his role in moving goods and people, reducing transportation costs. And this is where, again, there is a boost because the former Chief Minister of Assam and the current Minister for Ports and Waterways, Sarvanando Sonowal, is again taking a special interest to see that uh, inland waterways also takes much more strident steps. The fisheries and livelihood become strategically also very important because thousands of families actually survive on it. And more than all of these things, the cultural identity, beyond economics, the river is woven into the Assamese society, where festival, literature, music, social life all revolve around the river. I must tell you, I think I was just there about a week back in one of the points of Brahmaputra just next to Guwahati. And actually, day after tomorrow, I am going to be in Dibrugarh early in the morning. So again, I'll be just there in Brahmaputra. So everywhere, people build up their social stories around the Brahmaputra. So it's strategically important from the societal point of view. Now, what is the biggest challenge? The biggest challenge there is that all of this blessing comes with a curse, which is that annual flooding displaces hundreds and thousands, destroys crops, erodes precious land, and sets back a lot of the development activity. So while all these years and decades of flood management and finding a permanent solution has been a pursuit, but on the ground the work is absolutely shoddy, even rampant by corruption and possibly being done in a manner where there is no seriousness. In fact, the flood relief and rehabilitation becomes also a source of income for a lot of people, and hence, I think keeping the floods alive is also a strategy. I think that also has to be addressed. But what Guptaji also alluded to, the Chinese upstream activities, that's the latest concerns, and there where is the real uncomfortable geopolitical reality. In fact, the China controls the upper reaches of the Brahmaputra, Yarlung Tsangpo in Tibet, and this gives Beijing considerable leverage over downstream nations, particularly, of course, India and also Bangladesh at this point of time. And that is where uh, I think we need to be looking at, and that's where we all look to Mr. Pandya's lecture. Now, China has constructed multiple dams on the Brahmaputra and even planning more. In fact, the Zangmu, Dagu, Jiexu dams already are operational. And the massive dam in the Great Bend region is something that's a worry for a lot of people in the northeastern region, particularly Assam. And what are the implications? Of course, water flow control, data asymmetry, the limited hydrological data sharing from China leaves us vulnerable to sudden changes. And then, of course, the strategic leverages, and that water could become a weapon without firing a single shot. So, what are the solutions? Of course, the strategic dam development in Assam is already into controversies because some groups always raise their heads up, including some politicians also, to oppose this without really going into the uh, analysis or any kind of SWOT analysis to see that whether we actually need a dam and why we need a dam. And of course, the benefits, economic benefits of dam are all known. There's a significant hydropower generation that can happen. In fact, currently we harness barely 10% of the Brahmaputra basin's potential of 66,000 megawatts. Flood management, of course, that's again, as I alluded to, the irrigation potential, the navigation enhancement, economic growth, that can be more optimal. So I think these are what's important. And the strategic shield against Chinese manipulation becomes, I think, more important, and that's where Mr. Pandya will definitely give us a lot of input. But what I thought, in my limited way of understanding the region and how people are now talking, also, like the possibilities of buffering capacity, like dams on our side could provide storage to absorb sudden water releases from the Chinese dams, preventing artificial farms. Then the water security, the storage infrastructure could ensure that we can manage our water needs even if upstream flow is reduced. We could be also in a negotiating position, with China, When our own infrastructure strengthens, our position in water sharing negotiation with China could be enhanced. Of course, the data generation, we would have much better grasp. And today, with the right kind of modeling and all, we'll be actually able to understand how do we manage the whole ecosystem. And most important now, the national security implications also. Water security is a national security issue, just like, I repeat every time, cyber security and national security issue. And in an area where China has shown willingness to use its geographical and advantages for strategic purposes, I think water infrastructure is an important and as important as a military infrastructure. So I think there is a concern also around from these activists, which they prop up. As I say, many times they might not be on all founded grounds. So, but still, whatever legitimate concerns remains with them, if explained well, still makes a difference so that we can go with the dam, building and everything. So the environmental impact of it, I think that must be explained well. The displacement and the rehabilitation and resettlement, that again has to be harmonized and managed well. The seismic consideration that come up, like Assam lies in a seismically active zone. So where this is also taken care of, that needs to be explained. And of course, the downstream effects that could be properly explained. So I think what remains important is that we have to uh, look at the whole, Brahmaputra and its management from a perspective of how the current economic activities and everything goes on. The Chinese misadventures and in the around the river, that we know better, we can control or we can negotiate better, and foresee that in the future the water remains available to the the lower riparian states, etc. So I think to sum up, in what I was trying to say is that this is absolutely very, very pertinent to understand in all its ramifications about what the future holds, and that is where we are all here to listen to Mr. Pandya. In Assam, there is a lot of economic activities that has started happening because a lot of infrastructure build has happened, and the chief minister has been able to get the center's attention in terms of more investments around infrastructure. But the various groups and oppositions and I don't mean the political opposition, but the different kinds of vested interest groups also still operate, and many of them are also managed, so they also remain as a activity that one has to be concerned. But the point is that leap has been made on many directions to move forward and come out of all the years that have been lost to insurgency. So that is where Brahmaputra and how do we manage that, it becomes very, very important, because still majority of the people are having rural livelihood and most of them are still centered around Brahmaputra. So I'd like to just end here, and I just want to thank you, Guptaji, for giving me the opportunity, and look forward to listening to Mr. Pandya. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Subimal, for setting the tone for today's webinar, and also giving us a broad macro picture, and the bringing geopolitics also, because definitely when China is involved, there are a lot of geopolitical angles also. And this is the objective of the webinar, to sensitize people that how big a danger we are going to face. But before I get on to Pandya sir, I'd like to introduce Nana Sahib Patil, who is an ex-agriculture secretary, is former IAS from the Maharashtra cadre. He has also joined. Pandya sahab, Nana Patil sahab, kuch bol rahe the aap? You want to speak something? You are muted.
I am a former additional chief secretary of Maharashtra. I was in charge of agriculture. In the past, I was in charge of urban development.
Yes.
I would like to say something
Yes, sir.
which our other speaker has said just now. I'm surprised that the Assam chief minister, who is Himanta Sharma, he says I am not immediately concerned because Brahmaputra is a mighty river. It is not dependent on a single source. Brahmaputra gets most of its water from Arunachal. And this opposition, he says it is not very important at this stage. This is the Chief Minister of Assam. So what
Sir,
is your reaction on this?
Sir, Pandya sir will throw light on this particular aspect. Definitely, he's a dam expert. He has studied the entire region.
He has
quite
made
well.
I
Yes,
will
sir.
tell you,
I will
he
request
has
him
made
to.
Chief Minister has made a very concrete statement. Brahmaputra is not a river, India, which depends upon upstream. China only contributes 30% of Brahmaputra's total flow, and that too only through glacial melt and limited Tibetan rainfall. Actually, he says, in the unlikely event of China reducing water flow, it may actually help India to mitigate the annual floods in Assam, which displace lakhs and destroy livelihoods of every year. This is his reaction, and this is reported in Indian Express, 25th July.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah, before sir, now I'll introduce Pandya sir, the keynote speaker for this uh, webinar. He's the Pandya sir is ex-chairman of the Central Water Commission and ex-officio government of India secretary. Currently, he's Secretary General of the International Council for Irrigation and Drainage, an international body, and a very prominent dam expert, which is he's being consulted world over by different countries.
I know.
And currently, he's also professor of practice on dam safety in IIT Roorkee and a senior fellow in the Center for Policy Research, a very, very prominent think tank in policy research in India. He's PG in structural engineering from IIT Delhi and had been the chairman of the NPCC and several other PSUs. And he's also on the board of National Fertilizer and the Narmada Dam project itself. He has been very actively involved in the formulating policies and designing multi-purpose water resources project, dams, irrigation, hydro power generation, as well as flood forecasting and protection. He has been advising Government of India on various legal aspects also, because any dam or any river project is involving interstate or international boundaries. So there, his expertise is sought across the board in the country by the states as well as the national level. And he is in several committees. Still, his advices are being sought. He has rich experience in dam and other structures and dam safety programs also. Besides this, he's been awarded by the Central Board of Irrigation and Power, India Water Resources Society, Indian Society of Rock Mechanics and Tunneling Technology. In his distinguished career, he has dealt with all aspects of water resources and provided mentorship to large water resources projects. He's currently editor-in-chief of the magazine Water Digest, an industry magazine relating to water treatment, and he's also serving as the regional chair of South Asia Water Partnership under Global Water Partnership Research. And he has edited 2 volumes of books on water governance and management in India. Over to you, Pandya sir. People are waiting to, audience is waiting to listen to your intervention and the details what you will be speaking. Thank you, sir. Kindly.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Gupta and Mr. Subimal Bhattacharjee, and also Mr. Nana Sahib Patil for providing some very important, pointers to this issue that is at hand. And and I also welcome all the other senior personalities who are attending this webinar. It's a pleasure to be able to provide some of my little thoughts to this very important topic. So I will start with a presentation, and I would like to go through the entire gamut of the issues that are at hand. Even though they are very large, and we'll try to make it short, but then this requires more and more attention. Brahmaputra is a very important river for the South Asia, because as you can see, the Brahmaputra is one of the river which is draining the Tibetan plateau and then bringing the waters across Himalayas into the South Asia part of the country. Please forgive me for this map, because this map had to be taken from some other sources, and the boundaries of the India are not correct. We do not really agree to this, but all the same, just from the point of view of Brahmaputra only, this map is to be read. This particular Brahmaputra river, it originates near Mount Kailash, and then it runs parallel to Himalayas on the other side of the Tibetan plateau, and then it makes a U-turn, and then it comes and enters the Assam plains, and then later on it enters Bangladesh and then the sea. So basically, from the hydrological point of view, we consider the Ganga Brahmaputra as a kind of a common macro basin, which is having very strong connections with relation to its hydrology. As you can see, the Tibetan plateau is a very crucial plateau for not only for India, but for entire Southeast Asia, and China has definitely weaponized it by way of capturing this Tibetan plateau, which has been a very great strategic disadvantage for not only for India, but even for the Southeast Asian countries, like those who are depending upon the Mekong Delta especially. These are the important issues that we have. This water security issue, which is a global issue for the country and also for the South Asia, and then we have the flood problem, the various other issues that are also there, partly as a local issue, and then also partly as a national issue, like the interlinking of rivers, and then the ecology and environment issues. As you can see, we have got somewhere around 1169 billion cubic meters of annual available water. And out of this annual available water of 1169, what is really contributed by Brahmaputra is the highest. And it remains somewhere in the range of even about 560 billion cubic meters. So you are actually approaching something like 50% of the India's water availability is concentrated in Brahmaputra. Now we can understand the importance that the Brahmaputra has in the overall water security, not only of the northeastern region of the country, but also of the country as a whole. When you look at the water availability and live storage conditions, you find, if we see the previous slide, you will see that even though having a very high amount of water available, as far as the storages in the Brahmaputra is concerned, are actually very, very minimal. And similar is the case even for an overall Indian condition, wherein we will find that the India is remaining in the almost the very last sort of location as far as the storages are concerned, vis-a-vis the other important countries. We also have a very ambitious scheme of interlinking of rivers. And this has been a scheme which has been under discussion since around the 1980s. And the fact remains is that almost the entire southern Indian component, that means the component, that means this component, which is most crucially needed for our water management strategies, and also for our maintaining our sort of, I would say, national integrity, is entirely dependent upon Brahmaputra waters. The Ganga waters are heavily committed, and you do not have that old Dr. K.L. Rao's dream of Ganga Kaveri link. But the only link that is feasible and found feasible today is the link which originates and relies on the Brahmaputra waters. And these Brahmaputra waters are therefore not only crucial for Assam, but also regulated Brahmaputra waters are very important for the rest of the country. We will have a, if we try to discuss this will actually digress a lot of attention on other issues, so we don't want to really get in over there. But these pointers are something I would like to point to this learned audience, that without these, a day will come when we might have a situation of stresses in our southern India with relation to the water is concerned. Already we have a lot of problems between Karnataka and Tamil Nadu, and then also between in Krishna Basin at Maharashtra, Karnataka, Telangana, Andhra level, and in Godavari Basin again the same kind of situation. So you can understand the kind of problem that we have. Now let us concentrate on the Brahmaputra part. The Brahmaputra part, as you can see, now this is a map which is a TRMM map, and in this map you can see that the rainfall intensity point of view, the Brahmaputra, the Yarlung Tsangpo is relatively in a rain shadow region, whereas the rest of the as it enters India, now you can see the relevance of this McMahon line. The McMahon line and this particular line of this rainfall divide, you can practically you can match it, and that is the great reason that we have to defend the McMahon line at any cost, because the maximum amount of water that is generated on this side of the Himalayas, which is basically because of the trapping of the monsoon current that generates from the Bay of Bengal, is something that is very, very vital for the entire northeast region, and then also for the entire country, because the highest rainfall areas are all located in this zone. Now, however, the monsoon period is actually a relatively short period, and we get a lot of water during that, and then for the rest of the period we do not have adequate water, and that is the one which also creates a biggest problem of flooding in the northeastern region. And the Yarlung Tsangpo component, which basically enters as Siang in India, is the one which primarily provides us with the snowmelt water. And snowmelt water generally arrives in India mostly in the early parts of the spring and then the early parts of the summer season. So this snowmelt water component is very important, but the snowmelt water component is relatively less. As you can see, the snowmelt water component or the total yield that is coming in the Brahmaputra river, Siang component of the Brahmaputra river, is basically about 18.86 BCM out of the total annual yield of Siang at Pasighat is somewhere around 120 BCM. And we even if we take it at Tuting, then also our annual yield is somewhere around 78.2 BCM, out of which these 20 BCM is the kind of yield that is there at the from the Yarlung Tsangpo. Now, because of this, if you look at this kind of an annual figures, it creates a false sense of security, and that is the context in which the Assam Chief Minister had made a statement that we do not really have to worry about the yield being taken away by the China. But the fact remains is that our part of the yield is something that is concentrated in a very small time window compared to the entire year and compared to our annual overall time dependent water requirements. And that is the place where our own strategies for building our own infrastructure within the country really arises. And for that purpose, this particular part of the discussion is really concentrating on this particular issue. Now, as you can see, Brahmaputra is not a single river. It is not a Yarlung Tsangpo only. That is the Brahmaputra. Even though Siang is its major tributary, but then we have got the Subansiri, we have got the Dibang, and we have got Lohit. These are the three very major tributaries, when they all join at around slightly downstream of Pasighat or at Pasighat, then we start calling it Brahmaputra. Till that time, we actually are calling these rivers as different rivers. And the northern component of the Brahmaputra basin is the one which is actually yielding you most of the water. So the Subansiri, Siang, Dibang, and Lohit, we have to have an integrated program if we want to secure Brahmaputra waters, and if we want to use these Brahmaputra waters to the benefit of not only India but even also that of the Bangladesh. Then we need to have a coordinated development plan. This kind of a development plan was made from 1980s onwards by Brahmaputra board in its original master plan. But then after that, unfortunately, because of this, in the early 90s, this particular issue of resistance to the dams that came up under external influences has kind of completely derailed this part. And then some of the other thinkings that happened also created a problem with relation to the creation of the storage dams. In fact, you can see that the Subansiri lower dam that has been recently commissioned, we took something like I think somewhere around like 30 years to get through that, simply because there were certain amount of ill-informed advocacies, and those advocacies were actually at the then political establishment level were actually kind of nurtured. So there is a lot of problem if we go into the geopolitics of it, or if we go into the politics of it. There will be a lot of things, but I will try to concentrate on the technological and the water management part of it. And we have to see that basically this is the kind of equation that we are really facing. That means at the Indo-China border, what yield we receive on an annual basis is about 78.1 BCM, out of which the monsoon yield is about 59.24 BCM, and then average non-monsoon yield in the rest of the part is about 18.86 BCM. China does have a plan of south to north water transfer. They have generally completed the plan from the Hanjiang river, that is this Yangtze river, and that plan is going to be extended sometime to Brahmaputra, because in case of the other two rivers, Mekong River, they already have a lot of development, sponsored development in Laos and downstream, and they would not like to really disturb it that much. But then as far as the yield is concerned, the Brahmaputra becomes the greatest, and at some point or other they will try to do it. However, it is going to be an extremely difficult and extremely challenging thing, and we do not expect, even at the outmost kind of a situation, that more than 40 BCM they will be able to divert. Even that will be a Herculean task. So when we see that the yield at the Pasighat, when we have also the Subansiri also joining in, then the yield jumps up to about 120 BCM. And overall, as we can see, the Indian part is contributing about 42 BCM into the Brahmaputra at Pasighat at Pasighat level. So from this angle, we have to really look at that what kind of management strategies we should have in order to counter that particular problem under which China is trying to build this large dam. This large dam that is being built by China is at the head of the Great Bend. Great Bend is a very important geological formation wherein the Brahmaputra river descends by almost about 3,000 meters in a very short span. And if we look at the situation, had that part also been friendly to the country, we would have actually, there is a very easy and a very important kind of hydropower development that can be done from somewhere around this place, which is slightly downstream of Ningchi, and you connect it with the Tuting, and you have got something like 3,000 megawatts, 3,000 meters drop, which will lead to somewhere around 50 to 60,000 megawatts development in a single small zone. Be that as it may, we have to look at it from now our current situation point of view. As we can see, we have got number of projects that are there, but and what we have to see is that it, except the Siang, rest of the tributaries of Brahmaputra, like the Subansiri or the Dibang, and even for that matter Lohit, even though Lohit has got a branch, and Lohit does come from beyond our borders, but the basic yield is generally concentrated in form of rainfall in the Indian territories. And this is the great importance of Arunachal Pradesh. If you lose Arunachal Pradesh, you are losing this entire water source. So for that purpose, and also for the purpose of flood management, we started propagating this particular dam in the earlier periods in as far as the water resources community was concerned. In fact, these things were known to us not from now, but somewhere around from 1960s and 70s, and the requirements were being thought about. But unfortunately, at that point of time, the development in the rest of the parts of the country was assuming a greater priority, and then we had to keep this on the back burner, thinking that anyway nobody else is also touching it. But the situation has changed completely. Somewhere around 2000, we became aware that the China is having this kind of a plan, and right at that point of time itself, we had from the Central Water Commission side, we had proposed that we have to take up this Siang development in its right earnest. However, because of the emphasis of development of hydropower, this particular proposal of storage was actually downgraded to proposal of creating two small dams and two run-of-river projects in order to achieve a quick result. However, now with our persistent kind of work on in this area, we have again come back, and the China has indirectly helped us by putting a threat of that high dam, so that we are now in a position to manage and rationally develop our water resources as far as the Brahmaputra basin is concerned. Now, the greatest problem as far as the Assam and the downstream valley is concerned is the Brahmaputra floods. And for the Brahmaputra floods, this is the equation. What we see is that the 1 in 100-year flood, which is generally the flood that is used for the flood protection kind of work, is somewhere around like 61,700 cumecs. And out of that, Siang Basin is contributing something like 34,750 cumecs. That is the cubic meters per second. And that is the greatest component that creates a flood peak, which is ravaging the Assam valley as such. And for that, it is necessary that we are able to regulate the monsoon flows of these rivers, and especially the Siang River. And this kind of regulation is possible only through a large storage dam. The current, run of the river kind of dams are primarily built for very small storage. Those storages are hardly adequate for their lean season operations, and they have got absolutely no effect when it comes to the flood management part. So the need for a storage dam is a very important aspect. And then when we have seen this, what we find is that we basically need something like about 10 to 12 BCM amount of storage dams in the Brahmaputra basin in order to see that we are able to manage the floods in a rational kind of way. Brahmaputra is a very difficult river to manage because it is a braided river. After Pasighat, it changes its character very completely, and the river gets braided. The braided river is something which is very difficult to manage because the braiding keeps the current flows in various directions during the lean periods, and then also it keeps on breaking the banks, and we are unable to really estimate in the long periods of time about how this river will behave. For that, it is very much necessary that we have an estimate of how much amount of discharge that we will be able to manage during the flood season, and in what manner we can manage. And that can be done only if you have a storage dam, wherein what we do is that we can absorb the flood peak and then release the flood peak in a graduated manner, so that the discharges on the downstream are something that we are able to handle. And that is the for that purpose it has been estimated that from the Subansiri, we need a total storage of something like 3 BCM. At present of the time, we have only got somewhere around 1.9 BCM kind of storages that are under planning. One of the main problem that came up in Brahma Subansiri is that conversion of this lower Subansiri project from a storage project to a run of the river project. Even though it looks big, 2000 megawatts and all, but really speaking, from the Subansiri yield point of view, this particular project has actually created a problem as far as the storage is concerned. Now we have got an upstream project called Kamala project or Upper Subansiri project, where we are trying to create the balance of the storage, and probably once that project comes in, then we will be able to achieve this required storage in the Subansiri. In case of Dibang, we have a requirement of something like 1.764 BCM, and there we are now building this Dibang project, and Dibang project will provide a good component of it. But at the currently planned storage, we are hardly at about 0.5 BCM. Lohit again, Lohit is actually a very good river from the water yield point of view. However, the issue there is that of the geotechnical issues, and because of that, creating high dams and creating large storages is proving to be challenging. But there also, we need to have large storages. And then comes the Siang. Siang, we basically, as we have seen in the earlier part, that the flood peak that is getting generated is basically getting generated largely out of the Siang yields. And that is why we need the largest amount of storage in Siang before the river enters the plains at Pasighat, in order to see that we have got these storages in hand. And there the requirement becomes somewhere around 9.2 BCM. Whereas if we only go with the run of the river development that was proposed earlier, then we will only be achieving only 1.78 or 1.8 BCM. So this is why the live storage requirements in Siang are the highest. And this particular requirements, in an indirect way, will provide us with the supplemental storage or supplemental discharges during the lean season. And that is the effective weapon of countering the China's diversion of Brahmaputra. Because then when we are able to ensure the lean season flows, and then we are also able to control these sudden flood peaks that may be generated in Siang by China by virtue of their hydropower operations, and also by choking off their yields during the lean season. So as we can see, we have been able to estimate that if we implement this kind of a scheme, then we have got a kind of a target that we can reduce this to almost about 40,000 cumex from 62,000 cumex. And this particular thing will provide us with between 1.2 to 1.6 meter reduction in the flood levels at 1 in 100 year peak at Guwahati. So the main important areas of economic development and also ecological development will all be having a very good flood protection if we implement this scheme for our future. Next point is that as far as the water yields are concerned, the water yields will be, from the quantity point of view, they are going to remain very, very adequate as far as the, the general agricultural and other developments are concerned. However, when it comes to the diversion, we will need the regular flows. We will need regulated flows somewhere around Jogigopa. Now, if you look at the topography of Assam from Jogigopa all the way up to Pasighat, you do not have any storage site because they are all Brahmaputra floodplains, and it is not possible to create any worthwhile storage anywhere over there. So the only way we can create this major storage is by building this particular three sets of dams on Subansiri, Siang, and Dibang and Lohit. And Siang Dam is the one which is going to be the kingpin of this entire development, having got the largest storage, that is the 9 BCM. Because if we are able to regulate Siang, then rest of the flows we can regulate very easily. And ultimately, we have got the regulated flows in the entire Assam Valley, which will obviate the flood situation and which will also provide us with adequate amount of flows so that we are able to divert those flows back into our interlinking of rivers scheme, and then also provide improved water security in the rest of the southern India. So this particular part are something that we need to really look at very, very seriously. This erosion problem of Majuli Island, again, it is the same problem where we are not able to control the flood peaks, and being unable to control the flood peaks, this Majuli Island is a very important cultural and also the topographical feature in this entire Brahmaputra Valley, and for that we need this particular management. Same is the situation for our ecological security. Kaziranga National Park, one of the best and probably the highest level of development, ecological development park, is again basically because of the Brahmaputra flood affected area. And being a Brahmaputra flood affected area, every year we are seeing all kinds of harm over there because of the flooding. There again, if we are able to control the flooding, then the Kaziranga can have much richer ecological developments and much richer ecological benefits. Similarly, now these are the adverse impacts of diversion by China, where the major chunk of water available in the lean season may be denied to India. And that will lead to the sharp reduction in energy generation of the ROR projects in the lean season, especially on the Siang component, which was supposed to be as much as something like 10 to 18,000 megawatts. And then the lower Brahmaputra Valley and the valley will be the one which will be the highest, greatest sufferer. And then the country as a whole will also be the sufferer when we will talk about the interlinking of the rivers. And these are being handled through this Siang large dam. The Siang large dam primarily requires a high dam of something like 200 to 3, between 200 and 300 meters height. And that will create this required storage of 9 BCM. At present, what had happened was that in order to save the Inkyong town, that was the major development in the earlier periods. Now extra developments have also come up, and this particular, in order to protect this town, this dam was actually divided into two components, upper and lower. And in the process, what happened was that a very lopsided argument came up that our installed capacity remains the same, but then our storage is sacrificed. We had to struggle a lot at the bureaucratic level, at the technocratic level, at the bureaucratic level, and also at the political level to bring back this particular thinking back into the minds of people, that what we are losing is our water security by having this kind of a two-stage storage. And now, hopefully, with the China threat, we are in a position to get back to this particular original idea of the time, of the situation. So now as far as this particular storage is concerned, it does require the rehabilitation R&R requirements, but the R&R requirements are an issue which needs to be very seriously discussed with the local population, and a very good advocacy is required to be made. This is a very important social problem which has not been handled well in the past, especially in the northeast region, which has created this present situation today. The people there, people who are located in these areas, are relatively they have lived in a very secluded kind of an environment, and with very small aspirations. So when suddenly, all of a sudden, if somebody goes and tells them about these things, it becomes a very difficult exercise. But as we have seen that in case of our rehabilitation aspects of our Sadar Sarovar project, or other projects, like say for example the Polavaram project, for which now the works are going on, the concept remains is that of demonstrating it in order to really make it understood by the people, and for them, because it's a livelihood risk, so for them, giving them something in advance of the entire development is something that becomes very important. So here now at the present day, we have got a very good support as far as the political and also the technocratic background is concerned, but we will have to tackle a very important social background. Unless we will be able to tackle this kind of social background, it will be a very challenging task for carrying out this. Now, as far as the technical aspects of this creation of these dams are concerned, the seismic part is advocated very strongly. But the fact remains is that today's technologies that we have got, as far as the dam building is concerned, we have been able to build these dams, and no dam anywhere in the world, especially in high seismic areas like Japan, has failed due to an earthquake. We were able to demonstrate it in respect of Lower Subansiri to this entire advocacy groups in respect of those who were working against the Lower Subansiri, about the mechanisms that are generating these earthquakes, and there are certain amount of upper limits on the creation of the earthquakes because of the tectonic setup, and looking at those upper limits and then going slightly beyond that, and then it is possible to become possible to design a dam by which is capable of resisting these particular types of forces. We have got now adequate experience by building these kind of dams, like we have built Tehri Dam. We first built Bhakra Dam. We have also built Tehri Dam. We have got dams development in Bhutan, which is in Greater Himalayas. We have also now, even in Brahmaputra basin, we have we have come up with this Subansiri, Lower Subansiri. Upper this Dibang Dam is under construction, which is also more than 250 meters of height. So we have got now adequate amount of technical and other know-how with which we can very confidently say that this dam will be the safest structure if built in the event of that kind of an ultimate earthquake that will occur. In fact, I had to make that I had a kind of a faced a kind of a terrible amount of opposition from this Akhil Gogoi and party at the time of Lower Subansiri negotiations. And I had made a statement during a press conference, a very hostile press conference in Guwahati at that point of time, saying that if you say that this earthquake will come, I am prepared to believe that this earthquake will come. But then at that point of time, I would like to stand on the lower Subansiri Dam, because that is the only thing that will keep standing. There will be nothing else that will be standing anywhere else. But can guarantee you that the lower Subansiri will stand. And that is the kind of confidence that we can rest on this high dam developments as far as the seismicity is concerned. But if we do not have these storages, then the problems that are there, the Assam flood problems, can never be managed in absence of storages. Somehow or other, because of the situation of the anti-dam, advocacies, and these advocacies have got lot of international support. There is a whole amount of geopolitical and also partly the kind of instigation from our northern neighbors are there, which is creating this problem, and that problem will have to be handled at that level. Unless we will handle that level, we will have to keep on struggling with that. So on the whole, in a brief way, there are huge amount of benefits, because once you will bring in this Siang benefits, then what will happen is that the benefit will be like this: that one, we will have the non-monsoon period, will stabilize. The great potential for the river fisheries will be there, because you will get an area of 14,900 hectares of reservoir area, which will be a very rich ground for fisheries. And the staple food in the entire Northeast is fish. And right now, Northeast area imports fish all the way from Andhra Pradesh. You go and stand at the Sevak Bridge and see the amount of AP, plate trucks transporting the fish into the northeast parts of the country. And here, the entire population that is already there in this valley can be a very rich, very rich by virtue of having this kind of fisheries, and also the tourism. And at our last estimate, we had about 6,200, but now that would have actually gone up. But then, if we implement the R&R policies in line with what we did at Sardar Sarovar project or Tehri project, there is not going to be any dissatisfaction about the rehabilitation areas. So this part can be handled very easily. We have already discussed about this seismic safety point of view. So in conclusion, we can say that the Siang, being the major contributor of the problems and also part of the solution, the biggest part of the solution, is something where this particular dam is required. And once we are able to put in this dam, we will be ensuring the lean season flows. We will also be then ensuring the water transport throughout the year, because then we would have moderated the floods. And with the moderated floods, we will be able to operate even during the monsoon seasons as well. And then we will always have, because right now we are facing certain amount of issues with relation to the navigation depths, and those navigation depths will also be improved, because once you are having the storage, then these storages will ultimately, these storages are not permanent storages. This is not like a bank fixed deposit that you make it and then the money gets blocked. Water is having an annual cycle. Whatever water comes in a year has to be released back into the river in a year, because otherwise the next year water will result in a greatest flood. So the stored water, when it is released on a regulated fashion, will improve the lean season water management in the entire Brahmaputra Valley, including that for the Bangladesh, in a very great manner, improve the water transport to a magnificent extent, and then and provide a kind of amount of prosperity that will be there. And then we have still not talked about the about 10 to 18,000 megawatts of power generation, which will be available to first is a first claimant to the northeast and others. And this, as you can see, this particular development is through a storage development. Storage development has got a benefit of providing you with the design kind of power output in a uniform basis throughout the year. It is almost like a nuclear power station. which runs on a continual basis and provides you with a base load power. There's a very significant amount of base load power that can be provided through these developments. And then with that amount of base load power and also the peaking power, we will have enormous development as far as the modern IT infrastructure and other issues that are there with relation to our future developments. So on the whole, this project has the kind of possibility of transforming the entire setup of Northeast from a flood ravaged and a distressed kind of a society to a very stable and a very prosperous society. So this part has now been, of course, recognized by the government, but still we need to really work hard on this, and we have to make this project a success by also leveraging the local strengths and also the local support. We have a lot of problems on this front, and probably that is something which can become a part of the other discussions. So at this point of time, I will end my presentation over here, and I will hand back to Mr. Gupta for taking up the further questions.
Thank you, sir, for this wonderful exposition. Gave us a lot of good ideas, which I will sum up in the end. But very informative that the Siang project 1 and 2 may be merged into one, and give us more leverage and how to save Assam from the flood ravaged region to the prosperous region. So I'll now first take up the question answer. Surkumar sir, you wanted to ask something. You can unmute and see the question.
Thank you, Pradeep, and thank you, Mr. Pandya, for a very illustrious presentation. And I learned a lot actually about the water security and what's happening in Northeast with China and the Brahmaputra River. I had a chance only to visit Guwahati in 1993 during an international conference. I was staying in Ashoka Hotel. It was a concrete and steel seminar actually. So it's very good that you have given a lot of, you have thrown the lights how the things should be set up and going on. One thing, as a steel man, I'm just putting my point over here. The seismic activity in the north part of the India, because of the tectonic plates movements, etc. And yesterday I was at Imperial College Earth Sciences Engineering Department in Royal School of Mines. So I am learning more actually about the earth and how things are happening. So far the strength of the dam is concerned, I'm very happy that I was also involved long back when I was in Tata Steel and things were done. Two things. The first, corrosion resistant rebars which goes into the concrete, the patent is in my name, and I was so happy after that I was sent to Imperial College on a British scholarship and the other fellowships. Yeah. So this is very important that material should be corrosion resistant, which is going into the concrete, and it must have the seismic resistant properties. I'm very happy that the central agencies now, the central, what you call the Public Works Department, central PWD, etc. Now they are taking the CRS rebars with seismic properties. But I have a bit concern over there. The government agency, they don't want to pay for enough which can sustain the steel suppliers. The range for the tensile strength to the yield strength of the rebars range is 1.15 to 1.35. So to minimize the cost of the additional manganese, etc., to get this property, there is a cost from normal standard rebars and seismic resistant rebars. So people are trying to minimize because no extra cost is given. People are just working on the borderline 1.1517. Ideally, it should be 1.25 as a metallurgist, and I'm saying that one. So this aspect is very effective because this is very crucial to have the seismic resistant properties for the proper dam structures. Yeah. And corrosion resistant, both are very, very. So weathering steel type of material which cause copper, chromium, etc. are added into those one to have the weathering properties. Since you are connected with the Roorkee, I used to go to CBRI in
CBRI.
1992 to test these rebars in the concrete, how they are behaving and how the reports are there actually. So that was my first interaction with CBRI Roorkee, actually 92, 93, that time. 2 years I've been going constantly that time here. So please look into this aspect actually, what the materials are going to be used for the dam. They should be resistant to earthquakes actually in the worst condition, because that region is very much prone. So that's my point. The other thing which I am looking into, as you mentioned, the China, India, and Bangladesh, because I'm getting the rohu fish here from Padma River actually, and the Hilsa as well, Padma Hilsa. So Brahmaputra is also flowing there. So three countries should come together apart from their political differences, which is happening. The reason is, if we are not setting, and these days you must have seen the news actually, the United Nations has become irrelevant. Nobody listens to it whatsoever. It has just become a forum now. It's not effective. So politically, things should be done, because we have the big partnership, trading partnership with China, though we are in much negative side actually. So these things should be interlinked and discussions should be on. So bilateral with China, we should, so political, I mean, I'm not a politician actually, the things has to be looked into those aspects here. Thank you very much here.
Thank you. Actually, yeah, as far as the steel is concerned and those areas are concerned, yes, I mean, they are important. And in fact, as far as the water resources structures are concerned, we have different specifications, and we do not go by what CPWD or other areas where the building construction is involved. So like we use the steel, we have used the steel in one of these Mint2 projects in Meghalaya, where also we got the steel from Tata Steel at that time, and that's a dam which is resisting the acidic waters because of the rat hole mining, and the entire metal parts are subject to the severe corrosion in Meghalaya. So we have been able to successfully run that dam for now last at least about 10-15 years. So that part is definitely being taken care of as far as that area is concerned. And then as far as the negotiations are concerned, we are maintaining live contacts with China. We are I mean, China also realizes that there is no point in needling India on these aspects. And we have been having kind of data sharing mechanisms for Satluj and also Brahmaputra rivers, even though they are not very effective, but still diplomatically we try to maintain that. We have got regular agreements with them and all that. So that part continues. But well, of course, the larger geopolitical contexts are changing, and accordingly now we will have to see. But ultimately, it will be each country on its own as far as the water is concerned, and we need to secure and ensure our own interests, with our own resources and in our own territories.
I was listening with great interest, and of course, the presentation I would think able to see, but maybe right at the beginning when Mr. Patil had also put that question about Assam CM making some positions, I think the larger issues around where Brahmaputra could be in trouble, that's still a goalpost changing activity in the Northeast. Some try and give arguments that this is not as serious as it is made out to be, but sometimes it is also made that that any small adventurism by China puts us in trouble. So I think what you are doing here, Guptaji, is very, very essential, because a proper understanding and a common discourse has to be created, and then generally sensitized to the people in the region. I think that, Mr. Pandya mentioned about Akhil Gogoi and the kind of a protest he was doing very many times, often on unfounded concerns. But then he could motivate a lot of the villagers and activists around the region, to be opposing it without understanding that actually the dam would be benefiting them. So what's very important is that out of this, a common position and understanding backed by the wisdom and knowledge of Mr. Pandya and others who are working on this, I think that's very, very important. Our friend Uttam Sinha's 2 books are doing the rounds recently. In fact, Uttam is in Guwahati today. Yesterday he had called me, but in
Just
both of
excuse me, I have to manage my battery. I'll just you go ahead, please.
so um, I think the water wars, water conflict, how China takes it, and China is not going to be um, leaving you just untouched or without worry. Something or the other they keep on doing. The needling in the northeast, particularly in Arunachal Pradesh, it comes in various forms and in various places. So while around the water it has not been that pronounced, but if a large dam is being built, then the importance of storage, as Mr. Pandya has shown, and how those storage efforts also uh, are managed and manageable, and that can withstand the seismic stability of that place. I think it's very, very important that we invest and put the dams and the storage in place. So I would rest my case, Guptaji, that we need to be having a little bit more informed position on this from a policy perspective at the highest levels in the government. And maybe, the union government and donor ministry, the Northeastern Council, which is primarily concerned with a lot of the infrastructure in the region, um, needs to properly take this inputs and build up their case and then take it down to the people. I think a lot of infrastructure in the last few years around roads, railways, and even ports has been considered in the region. So a lot of the perennial opposition that used to come to infrastructure projects and all have by and large reduced, which means that down the line to the people and all, to the activists, um, a message has gone from a perspective that these things are essential for your economic development and well-being and all. So I think in that same line also, the story around the dam, a little bit more sensitive than a road or a rail or an airport project. But that messaging could be now accepted by a larger circle so that people like Akhil Gogoi cannot go and influence and stop, because it's in the larger interest of our national security as well as water management and overall economic growth. We will need to look at this aspect. So, and, whatever comes out of this today, Guptaji, I think needs to go. And as I have told you, I'm happy to uh, give it to the Joint Secretary Donor. I had told him to join today, but he's with the Donor Minister in Agartala and they're having a program right away. Otherwise, he would have joined. I think that's something that we could collectively do. But, sir, this was fascinating. Actually it enhanced my knowledge also, and this is very, very structured. So everyone should, in the Northeast, should listen to your point of view as they move forward and address this issue. Thank you.
I was just wondering, sir, one small question, and then we, if Mr. Saab joins, so then we'll ask him. How will we take the water from Brahmaputra to Peninsula? Presently, what way we will be taking?
Basically, we need a diversion canal from somewhere around a barrage to be built around Jogigopa in the lower Assam, and then that particular canal, again, that has also got a lot of implication with Bangladesh, because if we have that top portion of Bangladesh available to us, then we can transfer that water through a gravity canal into Farakka, and then from Farakka we can offtake from the other bank, and then we can offtake the whole canal system, which will go from Farakka. It will go via Damodar, and it will go to Subarnarekha, then Subarnarekha to Mahanadi, then Mahanadi to Godavari, and then Godavari to Krishna, and then up to Kaveri. That is the thing. We actually need something like, on an annual basis, we need about 43 BCM of water, which is much smaller compared to the overall yield of 580 odd BCM of Brahmaputra at that location. And that particular issue is currently posing. I mean, earlier on in the Sheikh Hasina days, we thought that we will be able to we can do it very easily. But as far as now the present dispensation is concerned, things have again gone back to the difficult terrain. But then if we look at it from that point of view also, we actually if they are keeping on threatening us about this chicken's neck business and all that. We need to have some kind of an enclave in the northern part of the Bangladesh, which will then solve our both problems of this security problem, as well as this water conveyance problem. But then anyway, that's a long drawn affair, and I do not know how and when such kind of a thing can happen. But for having a good dispensation in Bangladesh, as far as our water management is concerned, is very essential, because they have a potential of creating trouble in the northeast.
By the way, Subimal is Bangladesh expert. Recently, he has been to Dhaka, not since the fall of government there several times, and he keeps on traveling there into India.
No,
Mr. Sir, now you
we
have any?
had a lot of plans. In fact, what happened was that Farakka was basically built with creating a kind of a connected waterway going into Brahmaputra and then going up the northeast. For that, we actually built this Jangipur barrage, and I was already chairman of a committee under IWAI, where we were planning that how this how to reactivate that channel from Jangipur into the Ganga, and then up to the Brahmaputra, so that we can have a direct water transport through that without even going into the sea. But then by the time we could come to some kind of serious work on that, this problem has occurred.
Mishra sir has just now messaged that he is agreeing to whatever Pandya sir is telling. So I think
Okay.
now I wind up the conference. Any other question? No. Thank you very much to all the audience, and especially to Pandya sir and Subimal, and of course Mishra sir, DK Singh sir, Suryakumar Singh ji, and others who have joined, and my colleague and co-founder Sarang Nerkar, who had set up this think tank. Very insightful discussions we had, wherein some new perspectives we have developed. What rightly Subimal mentioned, that of all the detail Pandya sir has shared in his very elaborate presentation, that a lot of details in depth have come up, and the stakeholders must take note of it. The state government, even the activists and others. One point I'd just like to mention, that the water requirement, and Subimal, I hope will agree, and all the technical people who are here there, that in the coming years, this year onwards, there will be huge requirement of water, because we are going to embrace semiconductors in Assam, also in other places. We are having massive data centers, and also we have asked the small nuclear reactors. So all these three are big guzzlers of the water. What Pandya sir has mentioned in one of the earlier discussions that we can produce power, but you cannot produce water. Water has to be natural. So if I'm letting off the water in Brahmaputra go flow in the the Bay of Bengal, it can very well be harnessed for the rest of the country. So this can be it's a long project, but nevertheless seeds have to be sown at some end, at some point of time. So this is where the harnessing the water of Brahmaputra for the benefit of these massive projects can be one idea of overcoming the issue of water shortages or water requirements. Because if I have to set up these semiconductor plants consume lot of water, though it has to be very clean water, but those plants can be installed and used, but a lot of water is required. Similarly for the nuclear reactors and similarly for the data centers. So these otherwise this will be a massive constraint for us to do. So this is one point I just thought that I'll share. And of course, what Pandya sir and Subimal too has mentioned about the issues about the bureaucratic and political things, those we have to overcome and then take the next step, certainly. But no doubt from this particular discussion is that the Siang 1 and 2 project must come up, though merged or not merged. But then, of course, his suggestion of merging the is very well, is good one. And Siang project, if the activists and those who are opposing it or not appreciating this particular aspects should understand that we have no option now. Because the China, earlier when the China dam was not there and we were pushing for this thing, there was an option why we want to construct. But now, just to save the, especially Northeast region, Assam and other places, you have to have this dam. If the China does it counter-cyclical operations where you don't need the water, they'll flood you with water. When you need water, they will not give you water. So then what will the country do? So this, the people must ponder over it, and the best solution is to have your own network of dams, which is what Pandya sir has mentioned. And already steps have been taken, but somehow the progress has not been done, and we have to now expedite it. Thank you very much once more to all the colleagues who have participated and enlightened us. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.